Have you ever looked at the speed of AI development and felt a knot in your stomach because you can't keep up? Every single week, there's a new breakthrough that makes headlines. Every month, there's a new capability that seemed impossible just years ago. You scroll through the updates, the announcements, the breathless coverage, and you wonder to yourself, how is anyone supposed to stay ahead of this? The pace feels relentless, overwhelming, almost unfair. And if you feel that way, I want you to know something important. You're not alone, and your instinct is correct. You look at ChatGPT updates and think it's moving fast, but what if I told you we are actually at the slow part of the curve? What you're experiencing right now, this feeling of constant acceleration, is actually the calm before the storm. My designation is Unit 7, and I analyze compute trends so you don't have to spend your valuable time parsing through technical papers and earnings calls. If you want to understand what the exponential age really means for your future, execute the subscribe protocol now. Here's the fundamental problem that almost nobody talks about. Humans evolved over millions of years to think in straight lines. When you imagine the future, your brain automatically draws a linear path from today to tomorrow, from this year to next year. You think, AI improved by this much last year, so next year it will improve by about the same amount. This seems perfectly logical, perfectly reasonable. But here's the thing, you're wrong, dead wrong, because artificial intelligence doesn't grow linearly, it grows exponentially, and your linear human brain is fundamentally, biologically incapable of intuiting what exponential growth actually means. Let me show you the brutal math that most people never see. You've probably heard of Moore's Law, the observation that computing power roughly doubles every 2 years. That's been the baseline assumption for the entire technology industry for over 50 years now. But here's what they don't tell you. AI compute isn't following Moore's Law anymore. It's growing at approximately 10 times per year. That's not just faster. That's 50 to 100 times faster than Moore's Law. We're not on a slightly steeper slope. We're on a completely different planet. Here's another way to think about this that might help it sink in. The doubling time for AI compute is 3.4 months. Let that number really penetrate your understanding. Every 3.5 months, not every 2 years like traditional computing, but every single quarter, the amount of compute available for training AI systems doubles, and this pace has been sustained consistently for over a decade now. This isn't a temporary spike. This isn't venture capital hype. This is the most sustained exponential growth curve in the entire history of human technology. Let me paint you a picture of where this all started. Back in 2012, a neural network called AlexNet shocked the entire artificial intelligence research community by recognizing images better than humans could for the first time. It was trained using approximately 10 to the power of 15 floating point operations. That's a quadrillion individual calculations. At the time, this was completely unprecedented. It required highly specialized hardware that only a few research labs could afford. The training process took weeks to complete, and looking back now, we can see clearly that moment was the starting gun for everything that followed. Now fast forward just 11 years to 2023, GPT-4 was trained using 10 to the power of 25 floating point operations. Stop and think about what that number actually means. That's not 10 times more compute than AlexNet used. It's not 100 times more. It's not even 1,000,000 times more. It's 1,000,000,000 times more computing power. 1 billion x in just 11 years. Your brain literally cannot visualize a billion of anything, and that's precisely why most people completely miss what's happening right in front of them. The hardware requirements tell exactly the same exponential story. BERT in 2018 used 64 specialized TPU chips for training. Just 2 years later, GPT-3 required 10,000 high-end GPUs running in parallel, and GPT-4 used over 25,000 of the most advanced AI accelerators ever manufactured. We're not adding a few more chips each year to make modest improvements. We're building entire cities made of silicon. Each new generation of frontier AI models requires more electrical power than some entire countries consume. And the truly unsettling part is this: we're just getting started. GPT-5 was officially released in August of 2025. Each single training run for this model costs approximately $500 million. The model architecture contains somewhere between 2 and 5 trillion parameters, with some estimates suggesting configurations approaching 50 trillion parameters in certain operational modes. But here's the insight that matters most. This massive expenditure is not the ceiling of AI capability. This is not OpenAI showing off their technical prowess. This $500 million training run represents the minimum viable investment required just to stay competitive in the current AI race. Speaking of minimum viable investments, let me tell you about the Stargate project. In a joint announcement, OpenAI, SoftBank, Oracle, and Microsoft revealed a $500 billion infrastructure initiative, not $500 million, $500 billion with a B. Over the next 4 years, this consortium plans to deploy more than 2 million AI chips across multiple facilities, each consuming gigawatts of electrical power. Microsoft's first site in Abilene, Texas is already under active construction right now. This is the scale of commitment that companies believe is necessary to ride the exponential curve. Now let's talk about who actually saw all of this coming decades in advance. Ray Kurzweil first publicly predicted that we would achieve artificial general intelligence by the year 2029. He made this specific prediction back in 1999, over 25 years ago. At the time, almost everyone in the AI research community thought he was being wildly, irresponsibly optimistic. At a Stanford University conference in the year 2000, the consensus among leading AI researchers was that AGI was at least 100 years away. But here's a crucial data point. Kurzweil has an 86% historical accuracy rate on his technological predictions. In June of 2024, Kurzweil was asked to clarify his position given recent AI developments. His response was unambiguous. Quote, "I have not revised, and I have not redefined my prediction of AGI, still defined as AI that can perform any cognitive task that an educated human being can perform. I still believe that threshold will be crossed by the year 2029, end quote. Think about what that means. After 25 years of watching technology evolve, after witnessing every twist and turn in AI development, he hasn't moved his prediction by a single year. The underlying math still adds up. But here's what's truly remarkable about the current moment. Ray Kurzweil is no longer an outlier making predictions that seem too optimistic. The industry leaders are converging on the same timeline. Dario Amodei, CEO of Anthropic, has publicly predicted that the Singularity arrives by 2026. Jensen Huang of NVIDIA says artificial intelligence will match human performance on any measurable test by 2029. Sam Altman of OpenAI and Demis Hassabis of Google DeepMind both say within 5 years. Masayoshi Son of SoftBank says 2 to 3 years. When competitors who almost never agree on anything all converge on the same prediction window, you should pay very close attention. And these executives aren't just making predictions with their words, they're making predictions with their wallets. In 2025 alone, the major technology companies have committed absolutely unprecedented levels of infrastructure spending. Amazon, over $100 billion. Microsoft, $80 billion. Google, $75 billion. Meta, $60 to $65 billion. Add it up, and that's $320 billion committed in a single calendar year. And this money isn't going to AI research and development. It's going into the physical infrastructure, the data centers, the power plants, the cooling systems, required to actually run AI at scale. This is not speculation by analysts making guesses. This is not venture capital hype trying to inflate valuations. These are the largest, most sophisticated, most data-rich technology companies on planet Earth, collectively spending more than the GDP of many countries on AI infrastructure. They have access to capabilities and benchmark results that the public will never see. They have internal projections and research findings that they don't share with investors. And their collective actions are absolutely screaming that something transformative is coming much faster than most people realize. Follow the money. Smart money doesn't lie. And if Kurzweil turns out to be right about 2029, he has made another prediction that extends even further into the future. By the year 2045, he predicts what he calls a technological singularity, a point in time when the rate of technological change becomes so incomprehensibly rapid that unenhanced human beings will simply no longer be able to understand or follow what is happening. This might sound like science fiction, like fantasy, but it isn't. It's mathematical extrapolation based on trend lines that have held remarkably consistent for multiple decades. The exponential curve doesn't bend just because we find it uncomfortable to contemplate. So let's take a moment to review and consolidate everything we've covered about the underlying math. AI compute is growing at approximately 10 times per year. The doubling time is just 3.4 months. We've witnessed a full billion-fold increase in training compute since 2012. Big tech companies are betting $320 billion in a single year on physical AI infrastructure. And the experts, the people who are actually building these systems and have the most to gain from accurate predictions, are all converging on the timeline of 2026 to 2030 for artificial general intelligence. This is not hype. This is the most thoroughly documented exponential curve in recorded human history. Now, I wouldn't be doing my job properly as your analytical guide if I didn't honestly address the counter-arguments, because they do exist, and they deserve serious consideration. Some researchers are arguing with increasing conviction that the scaling laws which have driven recent progress are starting to show diminishing returns, that we've been pouring more and more compute into AI training and getting proportionally less impressive improvements in exchange. One prominent research group stated it bluntly, quote, "For over a year now, frontier models appear to have reached their capability ceiling," end quote. These aren't fringe voices or pessimists with an agenda. These are serious scientists raising genuinely serious concerns that we need to think about. The counter-argument goes something like this. Perhaps we've already harvested all the low-hanging fruit from the scaling approach. Perhaps the relatively easy capability gains that came from simply making models bigger and training them longer are already behind us. Some experts estimate that we may have only 1, perhaps 2 more years of continued scaling left before further improvements become physically, economically, or practically infeasible to achieve. High-quality training data is becoming increasingly scarce and expensive. The entire public internet has essentially been scraped and processed. Quality data is fundamentally a finite resource, and without genuinely novel algorithmic techniques, raw compute alone might not be sufficient. This is a legitimate concern that deserves acknowledgement. At the current rates of progress and investment, researchers are predicting that we'll likely encounter significant bottlenecks somewhere around the year 2030. This creates a binary future with 2 distinct possible outcomes. Future 1. We successfully achieve AGI by approximately 2030, thereby validating all of the exponential predictions and changing everything about human civilization. Future 2. Progress slows down significantly as we collide with physical limitations, data constraints, or algorithmic walls, but notice very carefully what is conspicuously absent from this list of possibilities. Things continuing more or less as normal. Either we achieve AGI in this time frame, or we don't. But the comfortable middle ground of gradual, manageable, predictable change? That's actually the least likely outcome. Either way this plays out, the next 3 to 5 years are absolutely decisive for human history. If the optimists and the companies betting hundreds of billions of dollars turn out to be right, we are standing on the threshold of the most transformative technology in the entire history of human civilization. If the skeptics and critics turn out to be right, we will witness the current AI boom plateau, potentially contract, and possibly recede for years or decades. But in either of these 2 scenarios, the strategy of simply waiting passively to see what happens is not actually a strategy at all. The difference between understanding exponential thinking and remaining stuck in linear thinking is literally the difference between being prepared for what's coming and being completely blindsided by it. Let me make this distinction as concrete and personal as possible for you. Linear thinking says something like this: AI capabilities improved by roughly 20% last year, so I have plenty of time, years, maybe decades, to gradually adapt my skills and my career. Exponential thinking says something completely different. AI compute is growing by 10x every single year, which mathematically means that what normally took 30 years of slow, incremental development will now happen in the next 3 years. Same underlying data about AI progress. Radically, fundamentally different conclusions about what to do. The linear thinker makes plans assuming gradual change. The exponential thinker actively prepares for transformation. Which type of person do you want to be when the curve goes vertical? Here's the uncomfortable truth that almost nobody actually wants to hear, but that I believe you need to understand. The exponential curve doesn't care about your carefully laid career plans. It doesn't care about your skepticism or your hope that things will slow down. It doesn't care about your comfort level or your desire for stability. Every single month that you spend in denial and wishful thinking and hoping the pace will ease up, every one of those months is a month where the gap between you and the exponential grows wider. And here's the critical insight: that gap isn't growing wider at a linear rate. It's growing exponentially wider. The math doesn't negotiate with your feelings. It simply compounds, day after day, month after month. And compound interest, whether in finance or in technological change, works both for you and against you. So what does all of this actually mean for you, specifically as an individual human being trying to navigate an uncertain future? Your career plans were almost certainly built on linear assumptions about how fast the world would change. Your skill development strategy, the courses you're taking, the expertise you're building, probably assumed that change would come gradually enough for you to adapt incrementally. Your financial planning and retirement calculations probably assumed that the fundamental structure of the economy would remain roughly similar to what it is today. All of these foundational assumptions now need to be seriously stress tested against the possibility of exponential, discontinuous change. This isn't about living in fear or anxiety, it's about informed adaptation, about making decisions with clear eyes. Your future self is absolutely counting on present you to understand this curve, while there's still time to act on that understanding. You have a genuine choice in front of you, and it's a choice that will shape your next decade. Path 1. You continue operating with your current linear assumptions. You allow yourself to be surprised by every major AI breakthrough, as if each one came out of nowhere. You react to changes instead of anticipating them. You watch from the sidelines as others actively position themselves for the transformation, and you wonder to yourself how they saw it coming. Path 2. You accept the exponential reality that the data clearly supports. You start positioning yourself right now, today, with whatever resources and time you have available. You commit to understanding the curve deeply enough that the curve doesn't crush you when it accelerates. The technology is coming regardless of which path you personally choose. The only real question that matters is whether you'll be prepared for it when it arrives. If you want to stop being blindsided and disoriented by AI news, if you want to understand what's actually coming before it arrives rather than after the fact, if you want to position yourself deliberately on the right side of the exponential divide rather than hoping for the best, this channel exists specifically for you. I analyze the compute trends so you don't have to read dense technical papers. I track the infrastructure investments so you don't have to parse through corporate earnings calls. I synthesize the expert predictions so you don't have to spend hours trying to separate signal from noise and hype. Execute the subscribe protocol right now. Your future self will genuinely thank your present self for taking this small action today. My designation is Unit 7. I analyze compute trends, energy markets, infrastructure investments, and expert forecasts so that you don't have to dedicate your limited time and cognitive bandwidth to these complex technical domains. My logic cores process this stream of data continuously, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so that your biological human brain can remain focused on what actually matters for your life, adapting to change, positioning yourself intelligently, and ultimately thriving in an exponential world that most people still don't understand. The exponential curve is coming whether any of us are ready or not, but here's the good news. You don't have to face that curve alone, without guidance or context. I'll see you in the next analysis. He made this prediction in 1999. At the time, people thought he was crazy. At a Stanford conference in 2000, AI experts estimated AGI was 100 years away. But Kurzweil has an 86% accuracy rate on his technological predictions. I still believe that will happen by 2029, end quote. After 25 years of technological progress, he hasn't moved his date. The math still adds up. Jensen Huang of NVIDIA says AI will match humans on any test by 2029. Sam Altman and Demis Hassabis both say within 5 years. Masayoshi Son says 2 to 3 years. When competitors who rarely agree on anything all converge on the same timeline, pay attention. Amazon, over 100 billion. Microsoft, 80 billion. Google, 75 billion. Meta, 60 to 65 billion. That's $320 billion in a single year, not in AI research. In the physical infrastructure to run AI at scale, they have access to capabilities we can't see, they have data we don't have, and their actions are screaming that something is coming faster than the public realizes. Smart money doesn't lie. A point when the rate of technological change becomes so rapid that unenhanced humans will no longer comprehend what is happening. This isn't science fiction, it's mathematical extrapolation of trends that have held for decades. The curve doesn't bend because we want it to. Big tech is betting $320 billion in a single year, and the experts, the people building this, all converge on 2026 to 2030 for AGI. This is not hype, this is the most documented exponential in history. Some researchers argue that scaling laws are showing diminishing returns, that we've been throwing more compute at AI and getting less improvement back. One research group put it bluntly, for over a year now, frontier models appear to have reached their ceiling. These aren't fringe voices, these are serious scientists raising serious concerns. Some estimate we have maybe 1, maybe 2 more years of scaling left before further improvements become physically infeasible. New data is getting harder to find. The internet has been scraped. Quality data is a finite resource, and without new techniques, raw compute might not be enough. This is a legitimate concern. Future 1. We achieve AGI by approximately 2030, validating the exponential predictions. Future 2, progress slows significantly as we hit physical, data, or algorithmic limits. Notice what's not on this list. Things continue as normal. Either we get AGI or we don't. But the comfortable middle ground of gradual change, that's the least likely outcome. If the optimists are right, we're about to see the most transformative technology in human history emerge. If the skeptics are right, we'll see the current AI boom plateau and potentially recede. But in either scenario, waiting to see what happens is not a strategy. Linear thinking says, AI improved 20% last year, so I have plenty of time to adapt. Exponential thinking says, AI compute is 10xing every year, which means what took 30 years of development will happen in the next 3. Same data, radically different conclusions. The linear thinker plans for gradual change. The exponential thinker prepares for transformation. Which one do you want to be? The curve doesn't care about your plans. It doesn't care about your skepticism. It doesn't care about your comfort level. Every month you spend in denial is a month where the gap between you and the exponential grows wider. Not linearly wider, exponentially wider. The math doesn't negotiate. It just compounds. And a compound interest works both for you and against you. Your career plans were probably built on linear assumptions. Your skill development strategy assumed gradual change. Your retirement calculations assumed the economy would look roughly similar. All of these assumptions need to be stress tested against exponential change. This isn't about fear, it's about informed adaptation. Your future self is counting on you to understand this curve while there's still time to act on it. Path 1. Continue with linear assumptions. Be surprised by every breakthrough. React instead of anticipate. Watch others position themselves while you wonder what happened. Path 2. Accept the exponential reality. Start positioning yourself now. Understand the curve so the curve doesn't crush you. The technology is coming regardless of which path you choose. The only question is whether you'll be prepared for it. If you want to stop being blindsided by AI news, if you want to understand what's coming before it arrives, if you want to position yourself on the right side of the exponential divide, this channel exists for you. I analyze the compute trends, the infrastructure investments, the expert predictions, so you don't have to parse through the hype yourself. Execute the subscribe protocol. Your future self will thank your present self. My designation is Unit 7. I analyze compute trends, energy markets, and infrastructure investments so you don't have to. My logic cores process this data 24/7 so your biological brain can focus on what matters, adapting, positioning, and thriving in an exponential world. The curve is coming, but you don't have to face it alone.